So, I see Nika from Croatia. Okay, no worries, Nika. Yeah, we can hear you, and maybe we'll get started now if you're already recording, Alex. Yeah.
Yeah, Erica.
Okay. So, and I can put the link in the chat. Just a second, in case you don't have it. I know you have it also in email. But we'll be at the very, very bottom. We're in session 11. So today we'll be beginning these today and next Monday. It will be on Livelihood. So next Monday, actually, we get one of our specialist workers in livelihoods, specifically in social solidarity economy, coming in to talk a little bit about the framework and how he approaches livelihood every day with the communities and small social businesses that he works with, and also bigger cooperatives. And so today is an intro to livelihood. So the focus is really, we call it behind the scenes class. So we share a little bit or a lot, depending on how many questions you have, of how we work and how we approach this from a nonprofit but livelihood perspective, because we are 12 full-time people at the Cooperative Resilience Earth, and this is our bread and butter. So we consider ourselves professional activists, and we actually get paid to mobilize. So we wanted to also share with you a little bit of our strategies and business plan, our nonprofit business plan, and see also and co-learn with you, because we understand a lot of you are also coming from very similar approaches as well. So the agenda today is kicking off with the video on livelihoods, and then we had intended to do the breakout room for 10 minutes, just for you guys to share on the homework that you were doing, but I'm not sure if you've done it, if that's going to be helpful, or if you want, we can just dive into the material itself.
We are so few of us
Yeah.
that maybe we can do it all together.
Okay.
I wasn't able to do any participatory session during the last week. I don't know if any of us have had that opportunity, but maybe we can share it all together. I don't know.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, we'll keep that open then. And then I want to go a little bit into not so much project cycle, but project strategy. And then going, because I understand that you did the design session with Oscar already. So that was really covering more like the project design and cycle. And then we wanted to share different examples of these phases of a project cycle. So we're going to share an example of a strategic planning process. And then we really wanted to leave it open with a lot of questions and answers. Oscar put in here questions and answers just at the end, but I would really encourage, like, this can be, especially because we are a nice small group, it can be really, really interactive, and you guys can just throw out all the questions you have in each of the phases that we go into. Any questions about today? Nope. Okay, super. All right. So yeah, Alex, I'll give it to you then to share the video, and then we'll get going.
You are now entering the regenerative livelihoods dimension of the WeLand. At this point of the process, we are aware of how the regenerative paradigm is emerging in the collective field, and we begin to gain insights into how this new paradigm will be developing in our community and our world. It is difficult to sustain this emerging paradigm because we are surrounded and embedded by older, persistent paradigms that resist letting go of structural violence and the privileges that come from them. The Regenerative Livelihoods dimension proposes strategies to put into practice this paradigm shift, leaving the old paradigms obsolete instead of trying to counteract them. Up until now, the community has clearly defined their collective purpose, and they have identified their different interests, approaches, and strategies to reach this purpose. In this dimension, new collaborations and synergies begin to appear in order to prototype initiatives that are aligned with a shared sense of place. Because of the high degree of trust developed in the community, its members are capable of carrying out actions strategically and agilely. They do so by maintaining the collective purpose in the forefront, working asynchronistically, carrying out interrelated actions at different moments from each other, and in indirect but fluid coordination with the work done by others, also known as stigmergy. In the Regenerative Livelihoods dimension, communities establish a monitoring, evaluation, and learning process, known as MEL for short, in order to keep evolving the regeneration of place to the next cycle of collective inquiry. Digital platforms can help continue this collective inquiry process without diminishing the importance of in-person gatherings. This dimension is about collectively implementing the strategic plan generated in the previous dimension in a decentralized way. This refers to the mycelium way of networking, where peer-to-peer relations are the basic pattern and where each actor chooses where and how to participate and to which end, generating polycentric structures that increase community resilience and accelerate climate adaptation processes. There are many challenges facing the self-management of communities, and one of them is that the boundaries of place are often purely administrative and rarely take into consideration bioregional boundaries. However, each challenge offers an opportunity for transformation. This transformation happens through the implementation process of the community strategies. For collective implementation to be successful, each actor needs to focus on its own potential and affinities, using all opportunities available to generate new collaborations. The global picture of how the implementation process is unfolding is revealed during community gatherings or through spaces dedicated to monitoring and evaluation and learning. Experimentation becomes the rule in this dimension because there are no clear strategies for how to adapt and adopt the regenerative paradigm in our cultures. Every place will express it in a unique way. We can develop more endogamic strategies, co-created by the people indigenous to the place and that give us very localized and evolving solutions. To complement these endogamic strategies, we can also cross-pollinate with other communities, generating a slow revealing of intricate solutions through intercooperation. Both approaches are important, and they should be carried out in balance in order to build communities with a strong identity of place, yet open to external input. In the Regenerative Livelihoods dimension, we immerse ourselves in how we experience regenerative action and what we see transforming through this process. In order to do this, we have to define indicators that inform the monitoring process. These indicators should be both qualitative and quantitative so that we can generate a monitoring, evaluation, and learning plan that helps us see the patterns of the collective evolution. Next, we focus on how this culture contributes to regeneration and what relationships contribute to the regeneration of this place. This will help establish a new, dynamic, and resilient network that is not defined by administrative or sectoral boundaries, but is instead ruled by the higher purpose of the community. The implementation dimension can be like a clopening, or closing and opening, of the whole WeLand process. On the one hand, it offers a chance to celebrate shared community identity, and on the other hand, it reveals new challenges and restrictions, therefore feeding into a new cycle of collective inquiry. In summary, during the overall WeLand process, the awareness of the landscape increases, and for the Regenerative Livelihoods dimension, this is the main source of information to guide the strategies and actions. During the implementation of these strategies, the community becomes a network of allies working in a decentralized way, and the economy becomes the channel in which everything happens. At this point in the process, we can differentiate the layers of the regeneration torus and see how they move synergistically and continually, adding value to the process of change within our communities and our landscapes. Our initial goal of avoiding collapse disappears progressively, opening up space for more regenerative goals that transcend the cycle we have been immersed in for the last half century. In this last dimension, before starting the cycle anew, we see how the power is redistributed in the community and how every person in the community now has the opportunity to play a significant role in the regeneration of their place, their home. There are no heroes in regenerative processes. Only people creating and participating collaboratively towards regenerative transformation. And so the cycle ends, and so it begins again in a never-ending adventure of collective community catalyzation.
Okay, so today we'll be kind of certainly picking up from where we left off. Oh, La Julia, ¿qué tal? From last week. And I'm not sure, has everybody been able to enter into the mural? Or if it's helpful, I can share the screen. Yeah, everybody's good? Wonderful. Okay, nice. Okay, so as I said earlier, we'll begin with a bit of a review of the homework that you had last week. So I don't know if you want, we can just create a space here if people were able to try it out and if they wanted to share some feedback, observations, and questions. I'm all ears, and then we can also share really briefly one of the examples of a session plan that we use for those kinds of activities. And it's okay if you didn't do your homework. We know that this is all in your free time, so we really appreciate that. So maybe just to get a sense, were people able to do it? No, that's okay.
Well, I got to design a session, but I will be leading it this Thursday, so I did design it. It just I didn't implement it.
Okay, that's fine.
So
Did you want?
I cannot yet see the results.
Do you want to share? Did you have any questions about the design itself, or how that went?
Well, I am a bit because there was like a big protest in the Netherlands, and we created the climate coalition Nijmegen, and we're like really in the beginning in the city, like what we want to be, what we want to do, blah blah blah. And this is our second meeting, like making rules and structure. So yeah, I'm very curious. I'm applying some of the tools that we learned here. But also most of the people want to kind of like go through the process and do actions and that's it kind of thing. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's always a challenge. It's especially in activist groups. Yeah. So it's and so what are your strategies if like to make sure that they also land some of that Horizon 3 thinking and that bigger picture?
Well, because
going towards
it is a collaborative agenda. Everyone can say what they would like to talk in the meeting. I'm always like trying to put these kind of topics in it, so that we think or we create this. This Thursday they will have 2 weeks to think on which is the slogan or motto or yeah. So yeah, I asked, for example, that instead of a vision and a mission, we would create a slogan or motto.
Okay, nice. That's definitely a start as well. Yeah. And will you use any tools like Iceberg or is it? Oh, and also, I guess is it virtual or in person?
No, it's virtual because we're like 30 people.
Okay. Yeah.
This week we will use the Iceberg and also silent discussion for doing the group agreement.
Okay. Super. And Maya, so I didn't know if you wanted to ask a question or comment. Or...
Yeah, no. The thing was that I didn't remember what was the homework. Then I remembered, but then I have another comment or question, because Judith, if I understand correct, you are based in Holland, right? Okay, Erika, I have to tell you that you guys inspired me so much that I'm doing a small, let's say, workshop for because I'm working with Climate Kick on Young Innovators, which is program for children, and I'll be doing, but this would be like my side project. One of the modules we had here with storytelling and maybe using also the medicine wheel, and we are also connected with organization in Holland. That's why Judith, I've asked you if maybe Well, we can talk after this because I think how it's with. Well, we talked today also about your author's rights. If we can like mention and say that it's inspired on this training, because the design basically will be something like merged, blended, not only what we did here. So yeah, regarding to design, do we have to like, what do we have to do if we want to use these tools? Erika's gone.
No, I was just talking to myself in silence. I'm so sorry. I do that a lot, actually. It was really interesting. No. No. If I guess what would be really great is if you simply want to say, like, for more resources, check out the Community Catalyst website and the Resilience Earth website for free downloadable resources. But yeah, you don't have to reference us as in like this was coming from there. If you use the medicine wheel, like from my teacher, Janice Longboat, she said, don't have to use my name, but always honor and reference the Indigenous nation that it comes from. So we have it actually in the poster itself. So it says Haudenosaunee Nation, or in the case of the Chacana, that would be the Quechua Nation. Hey, hola, compañeros. Qué bien. You know,
Great. Yeah, but I want to like make you as a reference because it's basically it's inspired on this training, you know. So yeah. Okay.
We would be honored. It's fine. Yeah, thank you very much.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Super. And anybody else then who has been thinking about designs and especially these participatory sessions? Oh, Julia, you're on silence.
And I don't see you anymore. I don't know why. Now I see me.
If you click, there's a gallery version. You can see all people at the same time.
Okay. Now I see you.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah. Today I have like a sort of briefing, I think, to organize an event. And actually, it's a really simple one. Like I don't really use it so many instruments because it's like 1-2 hour really easy. And but like I would like to challenge myself using some graphic helps, like, but it's virtual, so I'm like because it's so hard to for me because I'm not used to, but I'm really like inspired by the way you used so much like mural and this interactive way in which people can put post-it and write and see, and I would really like to train on this. Yeah.
All right, on. Yeah. No, that's very good. No, murals, in fact, we're finding them so helpful. We just actually were introduced to it last year with another project, and we're sharing it with so many other people. So it's yeah. I mean, there are other ones there. Mural is nice because it's free for nonprofits, so you can have 10 accounts, and it's yeah. But they have a free. Not to do like a yay mural, let's go with mural, but they have like a 76-page manual on how to use it and whatnot as well. But I'm wondering actually, because there's a PC collab, which I think Anna, you're in, right? Anna Urbano, I believe.
Yeah, like regional approach, or you think about the worldwide collab?
Yeah, the world, because they have really great free workshops and tools there, don't they? That they have a digital Slack.
Yeah, a lot of things going on there. I honestly can't follow everything that's going on there.
I'm on
live.
Yeah, I'm on that Slack channel too, and it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, maybe for those who would be interested, I'm just gonna, or Anna or Maya, do you have the link to go into that community for people to
Yeah,
register?
they have like certain protocol. This is how I was accepted. Anna, you will also know because I think that Nenat is doing this. So I think you have to like subscribe. I will find the link, and then you have like a small interview. I don't know if procedure is still like this, and then you got on the Slack channel.
Yeah, they don't do the interview anymore, I think, because it's so many people now.
Okay.
But I think this would actually be really interesting to all of you because I believe all of you are into the environmental, or most of you into the environmental aspect. Would that be correct? More or less? Yeah. So, and it's a permaculture, well, it has lots of different channels, but it's really cool. And it's just to respond to Julian, it might actually be really relevant to you, Judith, because they do a lot of throwing out questions like, I have this workshop coming up in nonviolent communication. Any ideas on resources I can use? And you have like 100 professionals who, or more actually probably by now, who can feed back into that and suggest things. Sometimes you don't get answers, but sometimes you get 28 in a minute. So it can be really enriching that way. And I would recommend that space. Yeah. So I will, yeah, maybe. Oh, thank you. That's great. Yeah, I think that is it. Exactly. Yeah, Miro is another platform that we use, maybe just to wrap up this, the homework from last week. And it's really great. And they have 3 free murals that you can use, which is good. The only thing that we found that was limiting was it stops at 3. So you can't keep adding.
Erika, hold on, because there is Miro Light.
Oh.
And yeah, it's new version of Miro. 5 months ago, they launched this Miro Light. I will share the link, and you can actually, it's open, it's free, and you can use it also with groups. And it's basically it's lighter, it has less functions, but it's great.
Oh, sorry, I just muted myself. Yes, that's great. Yeah, super. Wonderful. Okay, so I feel like a lot of these, I'm very sorry because I was not very present on Slack this last month because of we have a very, very big project on the go. Julia, the link is Perma Earth. It's just a little bit above. So it's www.perma.earth. Yeah, okay, super. And I feel like you can just click into that and activate it. And thank you very much, Maya, for the Miro light. That's excellent as well. Yeah. All right. Nice. This is community learning. Super. Beautiful. So yeah, the lovely thing about the PC Collab is, again, it's a Slack that's kind of like our Community Catalyst Slack, but with a whole bunch of people and lots of tool sharing and idea sharing. Yeah. Okay, so Judith, if I don't know if you want to like throw up any questions if you have them on Slack and stuff, but I hope it goes really, really well. I don't know if you had any last questions around this weekend. Or experiences that you wanted to share when you were designing it?
Well, I do realize that the other co-facilitator, so the other facilitator did not do this course training. So now I feel that sometimes I have to be translating with what I've learned and what's, so I'm all the time like explaining, oh, this is super cool tool. Yeah, but apart from that, I don't think there's so much more relevant.
Okay, super. All right, so it's well, good luck, all of you, actually, with all your upcoming trainings and whatnot. Maybe we can start getting our hands dirty into the actual tools that we wanted to share. So again, for the people who are arriving now, I think Eulalia and maybe a couple other people, we're doing a behind the scenes. So today is the first session of Livelihoods, the first of 2. And what we were doing is just kind of exposing, taking away the curtain of Resilience Earth and sharing some tools that we use to make this happen. So just a second. Yeah, I was going to go into the iceberg, but simply to share a little bit where everything, that all the tools that we're using are going to go, but maybe we can do it at the end. Let's begin with this is going to be a bit more narrative and not so mural based. But when you're starting or you have a project idea, so we've gone through the design, we've gone through the essence of, you know, what our organization is and why we want to do what we do, and now we're ready to like get our hands dirty and work. What do we need to be able to do so? So what, for example, and the example that we wanted to use was doing community transformation in a rural community. What would be really important as a first step to be able to start engaging with that community? Where would if we've already had, so I guess the first steps we've already done. So that's just diagnosis, getting to know the needs of the community, getting an idea of what projects could meet those needs, etc. And once that has been detected, what is the next step? And just, yeah. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's just from our collective intelligence here.
Start discussing how we will do it, maybe.
Yeah, start discussing exactly how you will do it. Very good. Yeah. And so what kind of things would come up in that conversation of like, okay, so how do we implement that project or idea?
Maybe start looking for funding or something, because in my own personal experience, I still have initiative, and it was based on voluntary work. But normally this kind of organizations, this kind of initiatives, like only based on voluntary work, die, unfortunately. Not very soon, but they do. So I think that funding, like money, it's important also in this case.
Absolutely. In fact, there's we call it the paired strategy. So there's resourcing and there's resourcing. So the first thing is financial resourcing, right? Or material resourcing. So what do you need to be able to do that? To be able to initiate that project cycle. So here there's a lot of research into are there government contracts that are opening that would allow you to do a really interesting project? Are there funding pots that you can access at the regional level or national level or European level to do those kinds of projects? But there's another resourcing that we often don't take into consideration, and it's the human resourcing, right? So what is your network? Who are the people that you need to talk to? And here there's two resources actually that we have identified. I'm sorry, because I have my notes, but they're in Catalan and I didn't have time to put them in the mural in English, so I'm just reading them out loud. But the human resourcing, right, is who are the people that are the enablers or connectors or pollinators that will help you reach the people that can facilitate this project. So that's one. And the other are who are the stewards and the participants that need to be involved in this project, and that will give you support to take this project forward. And so this is an interesting thing, actually, because here, and this is again really like this 3.0 social movement livelihoods work, is that when we start reaching out and making networks and delivering and carrying out projects collectively, this has so much synergy, right? So just to give you an example, here in La Garrocha, when we first came, it was literally Oscar and I had this crazy idea to do this, cooperative, nonprofit cooperative. And really what catalyzed it was linking ourselves with another organization, actually 2 other organizations. And we established a community center, just renting an old cinema in the downtown part of Ulot here in La Garrocha, which I believe Yone and Jochen came and visited just recently. Thank you very much. I'm so sorry I couldn't meet you in person, but Oscar was very happy. And there, just by sharing that space and developing our network and resourcing ourselves and vice versa, we're able to create a lot of synergies, which actually now in the community center, our co-op is 12 people, but the other 2 businesses have also grown. The one guy was literally all by himself with a couple supporters, and now they have like around 10 or 12 people also working. And the other fellow has tripled his business. He does social justice films and videos and anyway. So here it's really look for people who can participate in the process, but also look for people who can collaborate, because the more you collaborate together, the really it I cannot stress enough how important it is. Well, Alex has seen it in person, actually, that you can really nourish each other. And during COVID, I'll give you another example. Well, all of our organizations really suffered because a lot of us are working, in community engagement on the street, and I would say a third of our contracts initially were canceled and then postponed, and then we recovered, thank goodness. But between ourselves, we developed a like spur of the moment shared economy to be able to. For example, one of the businesses was actually very, very close to closing, and we had a project that was almost too much for us, and we couldn't do with the people we had because it was COVID. We lost a few people, and so we gave it to him, and he was able to sustain his project or business over the 3 months of summer. And he said he survived thanks to that collective approach of supporting each other, not just doing projects together, but also being aware of the needs of the other, right? So, and that has been really, really interesting. So when you're starting a project, like look at the money, but also look at the people. Who is your main core, but who is your network, and what are their roles, right? So the different roles. Are they resourcers? Are they funders? Right? Are they enablers in the public administration? Are they allies from the social and ecological movements? And really think about that. Like what is your role with them? How is that a mutual relationship? And this is key as the first step in any kind of project development. If it's a small project, if it's a big project like a cooperative, what we've identified, what also in project management, they often talk about resourcing, but we're like, okay, so resourcing and networking, or human resourcing. Yeah, I don't know if you have any questions or also stories or similar observations that you've seen in other spaces, especially coming out of COVID, which I'm sure a lot of you also had similar experiences. Yeah. Or questions? Okay. All right. So the next, after you've identified allies, if you've identified resource, like people who can link you to good contexts and also to certain liberating funds, right? What else could be the next step? Can you hear me okay? Because it might be my connection.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Okay.
Maybe assigning tasks to people, no?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So exactly. So who is in your team and what can they do? Excellent. Very, very, very good, Paula. Yeah. Anything else?
I'm not sure I'm following, maybe because I came late, but I'm not sure I'm following what we're talking about.
Okay, sorry. So we're in the livelihood session. So we're just going through a bit of a project cycle, like to launch a project. Yeah. So
All right.
and yeah. So I was just like I gave a couple examples, but I was giving maybe a bit of a macro example, and I got maybe into too much detail there. But on the first step is resourcing, right? So after you've done the design and like all the all the steps that we've done so far, you know, like creating the soil, co-sensing, et cetera. Now we're in livelihood. So now what do we need to do? Right. So now that we have this amazing project design, we know we've had these really interesting conversations with people, but then now what do we do? How do we make it real? How do we implement this amazing strategic plan that you've developed with individuals? So Maya and Paola were saying, okay, so we need to get funding. We need to find the people. We need to assign tasks.
Yeah.
What else?
But if you have made a design, you more or less already have some circles, no, some group works and some people linked to these group works, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. So maybe it's a review of, okay, so really who do we have here? Who can really continue? Who can sustain? Who can implement? Yeah. Very good, Eulalia. Yeah. Okay.
¿Puedo? Hablo en castellano.
Okay. Está bien. Sí. We can translate.
Después de pasar por Olot y encontrarnos los grandes amigos que hemos encontrado también, siento que es muy importante en el enfoque, en la raíz, que haya una raíz común que nos una para dar los pasos juntos, sea el camino que queramos hacer. Entonces, cuando en esa raíz nos podemos encontrar, el camino es más fácil y la intención se marca casi sola. La forma no importa cómo, o sea, se puede, hay que encontrarle un formato, pero una raíz común nos da la lanzadera para caminar juntos, un proyecto que va a hacer sentido, aunque sean diferentes proyectos. Lo he sentido muy profundo ahí en el Temazcal y con vosotros al encontrarnos. Y creo que el propósito, en parte, ha de ser un propósito superior, bien fuerte.
Excelente. Muchísimas gracias. Maybe I'll do a quick translation. So here, Yone was talking about, or Jone? Yone, okay. Was talking about the importance of really having a common purpose. So that was, last week's session on the strategic planning. So that everybody is really rallying around a common center, a common purpose. And with that, that really opens the door or makes things much more able to go forward. And I don't know if I'm missing something, if somebody else who speaks Spanish also can add to the translation there.
Yeah, it was about she called it roots. I think this is it's an important detail of the visual part of what she's telling. No?
Thank you very much, Jochen. Yes, yeah, exactly. So what are the roots of the project? Okay. So what I wanted to do, can I do a share screen with this? Jitsi, yeah. Okay. So when you have now identified, for example, a funding proposal, you've already worked with the community to design the project. What we do next then is the technical stuff, and that's what we wanted to go into today as well with you all. Is, you know, what does a project proposal look like? What does a budget and a calendar look like? What does a monitoring and evaluation plan look like? So if you want, what I can do is, if I can figure this out. Just share my screen. And did Oscar give examples of strategic plans last time, or?
No.
No, okay. So maybe we can start with a strategic plan and then go into project proposal examples. Compartir pantalla. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I'll just, before I get into the project proposal, so obviously first you've developed with your group your strategic plan. We want to give you an example of a strategic plan, but the most recent ones are all in Catalan, but we can just share them and then and narrate the translation over. But this is, for example, one that we created after doing an evaluation process and then a co-creative planning process with all of the 70-something member organizations of the provincial network of solidarity organizations of Girona in northern Catalonia. So this is their strategic plan. And there's always the formal introduction and so just explaining a little bit about what they did, how they did it. And here is then where the interesting language starts to come in. So they really have a really clear purpose. So propósito is purpose. They have their principles. And this obviously is what Oscar was talking about last week, really, really grounded and co-produced extraordinary in such a collective way, as engaging as possible. We used in the last year, obviously we had to switch to virtual and we used lots of murals, but the end result was a very, very clear purpose and principles, but also strategic lines. So they, in this case, they developed, I believe, 4 strategic lines. No, one internal. And they explain, and here this is a bit of a miniature or short version that's really great for communication, and that's what we suggested that they produce, is something that is extraordinarily easy for them just to use as reference for every single task that they do. Right, so we have like the different strategic lines, or eixos in Catalan, of the work that they do, and then we have the cheat sheet. And you say it in English. So a quick glance. So the strategic plan at a glance, and this is the short version of their strategic lines, and then the objectives that link to each of those. In addition to that, they have an extraordinarily detailed action plan, and that's what we'll show you in a bit. I could probably show it to you now. I wanted to show you. Yeah.
Sorry, Eric. Is anyone seeing the presentations? Because I don't see anything. No.
Oh no, nothing that I've shown you so far. Oh my goodness.
No. Yes, we've seen a lot of things, but the last minutes.
Oh, okay. Let's see what I can do. It must have just stopped, no?
Yes, with Yitzi, it's about the connection. Sometimes the connection is not strong enough to...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I will try it again. Can you see this now?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so just to show you really quickly though, the strategic plan of that organization was also taken from here, which is kind of like an operational plan. So they had, again, I apologize that it's all in Catalan, but the structure I think is probably the most interesting thing. So this was an open document, or is still actually an open document for them, and everybody had a chance to really get into it and be able to add what they wanted to. So we have these columns, which are what was in the beautiful, pretty document that we showed you. But in addition to that, they made it operational. So they added, who is going to do this? Who is going to support this objective? What actions will they do? What year will they do that? What are the H3, Horizon 3 goals for each of those years? Right. So maybe, and they filled as much as they could, and some they couldn't, and that's okay. Yeah. Sorry, any questions?
No, just was disappeared again, but now it appeared again.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry that the connection isn't so great. I'm wondering, because we could do Zoom, but a Zoom link that we would just have to like activate every 45 minutes. That might have to be the next option. Oh, we'll see how it is next week. Yeah. Can you still see what I'm showing?
Yeah. We see your screen.
Okay. All right. So I'll open the next one I wanted to show. This is a little bit more what would it be called? Yeah. Complex, I think is the best word. So this is our internal strategic plan for Resilience Earth, right? And here we can email this to you. I even have a folder here that we can share. But what we did was develop our strategic line. So it would be Eix Strategic, but we built it around how we work, which is according to actually really inspired actually by WeLand. So the Toru. So it would be nourishing projects that the project flow would be following this red line up and then out and then back in. So this would be the project cycle or project flow, and each individual in the cooperative has a different position depending on their role in this structure, right? So we have in the middle, for example, this is a lot of like the reproductive work, the fundraising, the management, the administration, and then as we get out here, this gets into what we're talking about now. So this is also inside. It would be project design, and now it's here. We're getting into livelihood. So how do we expand? How do we make this real? What are the connections that we need? What are the funds that we need to access? Here outside as well is Alex's work, which would be the communications work, and then we go back in and get more, and it's nourishing and getting a bigger network, so we get more project ideas, more people to work with, and continue that project cycle again. And so I'll just really kind of go through that pretty quickly, but so this is, again, a very, very complex example. I haven't seen any other strategic plans quite like this one, but it's sometimes fun. It's an excuse to really be creative about your project cycle and your purpose and how you manifest it in your organization and in your project itself. So we have, again, like the different areas that we work in, following the medicine wheel, and also following the Torux. Right, so social solidarity economy, community resilience, regenerative development, and transformative communication. Yeah. And then we have here also the nested systems. So who are we, right? I'm just going to try and make that smaller.
Erika, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
In a more simple model, would these groups that you showed in the previous slide, would that be like the circles in sociocracy, understanding of an organization? Would that be like the circles of the different like working groups?
The previous page? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. Exactly. It would totally, if it were a larger organization, and actually we kind of work that way as well, it would be very similar to that. Yeah. So these would be the domains. These are rather the domains that we work in, and they are very, very autonomous, but with a lot of interrelationship, right? So, and again, I would say actually this white one here, which is Alex, Comunicación Transformadora, the transformative communication, is actually, it's a domain that's not so discrete. It's quite transversal. Yeah. That's a really good observation.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Where between like the sociocratic circles, how is facilitated or regulated the interaction between, like what happened in my organization is that the circles are somehow autonomous and also like kind of isolated.
Okay.
So,
yeah. No, that's a really good question. So here it would again go into the governance. So how are you coordinating? How are you making decisions in order to advance the work in the different domains? So that coordination circle that Oscar showed you is really, really important in that, right? It's if you're feeling the need to meet more often, that's okay, as long as it's time bound, that you're putting a calendar to it and saying we're meeting every week because we need to, but only for the next month, and then we'll go back to 2 weeks or every month. But yeah, it's sometimes simply it's interesting, but sometimes it's just the simple fact of meeting and sharing can really unblock a lot of concerns or not sure what people need to do. Yeah.
Okay. I have one more question or two, or many more. Now, I think, do you always follow this picture of two people of each circle in the mother circle, or not necessarily?
No. We have our reference people in each of the domains. So, and it's a team of either 2 or 3 people in each domain, but there's a lot of cross-pollination. So, for example, if I need somebody, like there's a really big conflict in one of the communities where I'm working, and I need somebody to really help unblock that, we have the 2 people in like community resilience domain actually has 2. There's the conflict management team, so that's 2 people. It's going to soon be 3, and they are the process work professionals. And then there is a woman named Carla, myself, and Oscar, who are in the municipalities and organizations, and Laura as well, and we work there. So, but we'll several times, in fact today we're like, Anna, we need you to come resolve a really sticky situation, and she'll come and do one session there. So it's really interesting because then she gets to learn a little bit about our projects, but we also get to see get more familiar with how they work. So it's good to be a bit flexible, but it's also important to have those reference people and not tire people out with meetings. That's also true. Like the more asynchronistic you can work, the better. Like our Slack is actually really, really quite active, just to really help facilitate those communications and coordinations. Yeah.
I have another question about Slack. If you you really use Slack as your circles and stuff for like in a sociocratic way, right?
Yeah, I can even share a little bit how it's structured, but yes, yeah, we use it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, because like I'm trying to explore it a little bit, and I saw like you can do like channel with just some people of the big channel. I don't know to explain that, but like how you regulate each channel, like you have. Yeah, that's my question.
They're quite distinct channels. And here there's actually just the three rules. I think I put it on one of the first slides or in your Slack for Community Catalysts, but it's always tag people, always, when you're engaging them. So if I'm writing to you, I'd do like @Julia. Always respond by creating a thread, and don't respond underneath. Like always respond as a conversation. And then there's the instead of saying, "Oh, that's a great idea," sometimes it's just great to put a thumbs up, and that kind of just helps organize those conversations. But the way they're linked, it's not so much. That's why you have to have a nice design before you make the channels themselves. Like it took us, I don't know, Alex, if you remember, like a month before we really got at the channels for Resilience Earth. So yeah, and you'll make mistakes, and then you'll make it better, and yeah, just don't be afraid to make lots of mistakes. That's the best. So, right. So I wanted to get into then the project proposal. Is this helpful for people if we go through kind of like the project process for Livelihoods? Like what does a project proposal look like? What does a budget look like? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'll share then. And again, I apologize because really a lot of what we have is in Catalan, but I will translate it. And again, I have it in a folder. Alex, I don't know if you would be able to email it to everybody. And that way they have it, or I can put it on Slack.
Which document, Erica?
No, I'll send it to you in a Slack. Okay. It's in the P Cloud. It's like all the documents of this session. All right. So this is an example of, well, maybe I'll make it bigger actually, of a proposal that we submitted to the regional government here. And so, sometimes nice to find a fun name for the project itself. And there's the index there. And then we usually begin with a little bit of an introduction. In this case, it was a direct request from the president of the regional government. So that made it easy to have a nice, strong beginning. But here we could do we usually do introduction and objectives. But because we had the objective directly from the president of the regional government, then it was easier to do. Then we go into phases. So here we make sure that it's always very, very clear. We number the phases. We give a short description. It's important that, especially depending on your audience, if it's a very technical audience, which was in this case a highly technical audience, we use big fancy words. But if it is a small municipality that is, they have not a lot of experience in this, it's important to adjust the language to meet to make it as understandable as possible. In other projects, depending on the case, sometimes we even include a little story at the beginning or an anecdote to kind of kick off the project proposal. The other thing that's really important is to really be fun with your words.
Sorry, Erica, it disappeared again.
Oh, no. Okay, thank you for letting me know, though. Okay. All right. I'm wondering how we can do it so... Can you see it now? Can you see it okay?
Yes.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, super. Thank you. Sorry. Okay, so we have the custom of or habit of always including our methodological frameworks. We always find it really helpful to situate the person. So in this case, we actually, because it's such a huge project, we pulled out all our guns. This one didn't save anyway. VICA, so we had our VUCA, our resilient cycle, and the regenerative spiral all in there. Because it's a wholly online process, we also included our little poster on how to do online meetings. We have them in English as well, I believe, downloadable on the Resilience website as well, if you ever want access to that. It's in English, Spanish, and Catalan. So, and we explain kind of how this process can be done online, which is a really, really big thing now. So we explain really quickly how we use Zoom, how we use Google Docs, how we use Mural, but depending on the project, sometimes we won't use Mural, sometimes Mentimeter is good enough, etc. Then we have a very fancy calendar, which outlines exactly everything that we will be doing. Because this is the habit that I had coming in from Canada. Oops, and I see that there's a missing number there. There, they really need everything very, very quantified. So I use an Excel, and I'll share that with you as well, that quantifies the hours put into each of the phases in this column, and also by month. And this is also really, really helpful for your own internal planning.
Sorry, Erica, but we are not seeing it again.
Oh,
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm wondering, you know what? I know it's goodness, maybe, Alex, we can go to Zoom for the last 45 minutes.
Or maybe I can show the document. You were going to show POA?
No. I was going to show this this proposal, and then at the end was going to be POA. But just a second.
As you want, Erica. If you want, we can go to Zoom. Yeah. There's just 1 hour left or less, because we have to stop earlier today. So.
Exactly. How is Zoom? If we go to Zoom, I'll send you a link really quickly. Is that easy for everybody? Yeah. Okay, let's do that then. All right. Okay, so I'm just going to add the link in here, and I'll open it up right away. So just to pick up from where we left off, I'll share the screen with you. So I was just sharing a little bit about the calendar. So it's really nice to have it, super, detailed if it's a big project. Doesn't have to be this detailed if it's not, but this is what we usually submit for big and small projects. And then every single line up above it in the Excel, it's hyperlinked to produce a budget. And then we have in the Excel the budget and the corresponding price and the hours that are linked to the first sheet. And then we produce the final total. Yeah. So, and then in our proposal, we just explain a little bit about who we are, and that's it. So really just the essential bits. And this is kind of like the standard proposal that we submit for all of those types of projects that aren't a specific funding proposal that you have to follow, like an Erasmus form or this kind of form or that kind of form. This would be like an open, free, no form application. And they do have up until now quite a lot of success. And what people are most happy with is the design behind it. So again, the session that Oscar was doing on design, I really, really, really emphasize the importance of that, because it's the make or break of a transformative project. It's like if you have a project that you've been able to think through what are the leverage points, then that is what really piques the interests of the people who are going to consider funding it. So the other document I wanted to also share, and again, this is something we can it's in the folder, but Alex can send it to you. It's just the actual Excel itself, just to share with you how it's linked. But essentially, these days here, this would be for another type of project. They link to this column here. Sorry, this column here in the hours, and then the subtotal is automatically generated. So yeah, anyway, these are just kind of tools that I took from where I used to work in Canada many years ago. So now we actually have really cool programs that actually output this kind of stuff. But if you want the old school way, we're happy to share this. But again, there's lots of really, really cool advancements as well that you don't have to rely so much on Excel, but you can use actual software to be able to do this kind of budgeting and calendarizing. The other project I wanted to share was an operational plan. That was it. So we shared the example of the operational plan that was the Excel that was linked to the strategic plan. But here, the really interesting thing is just if it's a small project, break down step by step this, like use the iceberg is what we would recommend always. So if you have your purpose and your strategies clear, then a little bit what Paola was saying, right? So who is going to be the lead link, to each of these for each of the strategies? You know, who are the people implementing all of those actions? Are the actions really clearly identified?
Erika, you can mute them if you.
Oh, I can mute them? Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I can. Okay. Oh, I can. Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. So so for very simple projects though, like just if you're able to break it down, and this was what Oscar and I were thinking, if you want, you can also do it. If you have a project that you have the strategy really clear and you're developing the action plan, show us some examples of the operational plans or the action plans that you have. How do you design it? And you can use some of these examples that will link to you in this folder. But what we would love to see is, you know, how do you do it? You know, is it do you use Excel? And we can have a nice space here to talk about that too. Do you do it on a whiteboard? Do you do it in a Word document? Do you do it on Slack? Right. So I don't know if anybody wants to anybody has questions on that. Okay, so the last one in this package, which is monitoring and evaluation. And again, that was really also really present in the film itself, or the short video. Was this monitoring and evaluation and learning plan. And we really, really emphasize, like, if you're able as a collective, when you're going up that iceberg, so you've got your strategic plan, so you got your purpose and your principles, you have your strategic plan, you have your, you know, who is doing what, and also how to resource things. Then you're developing your operational plan, your action plan at the very top, which would be at the actions part of the iceberg. But then something that is kind of like the glue to really link all of that is really based on learning. So how do you nourish the learning in that process, right? So here it would be what we call a monitoring, evaluation, and learning plan. In English, it's called MEL. There's a million examples online. I've done, unfortunately, the last, I don't know, 10 in Catalan, so I can give maybe one of the more I'll share one of the bigger ones with you guys. But here, what we always emphasize, the most important thing is to build in to your strategic plan spaces for monitoring, evaluation, and learning. And here it can be, we commit to in our annual plan, for example, every 3 months, a reflection on how we're implementing the whole strategic plan. In a project cycle, if we're an organization that is running 6 or 7 different types of projects, what are the key phases in the project that we have to stop, think how we're doing it, if we're implementing the objectives, and what we need to make that more enriching, right? And that is your monitoring and evaluation plan, right? So for example, for our projects in our cooperative, we have the first meeting, which is designing the indicators and objectives. The second meeting would be midterm, usually if it's a small project, is like, are we doing okay? Is there anything we need to shift or change, right? And incorporate that learning into the DNA of the project. And then at the end, what went well? What didn't? Did we achieve the objectives? And the best thing to do is to do it in your internal team, but also with the people that you're working with, because this learning process is really about a community learning process, right? It's great that we're able to learn, but also even more powerful if the people that we're working with are also learning.
Erika, can you go through that again? I think it's a bit important. Do you do that? Let's say that you have, from your purpose, you have 5 strategies or 5 lines that you want to work with, and for each line you have a group of people that actually is going to do it.
Yeah.
And then what? And then where do you integrate these 3 steps that you spoke about? And can you repeat these 3 steps?
Absolutely. So in fact, I would even share that. Which is it? The operational plan that I just showed you, that's on Google Forms, or Google Doc. I'll share that with you, and then and use some examples from there. Yeah. Thank you for the question. So, for example, this yellow box, I'll make it a bit smaller just so you can kind of get the sense, and you don't have to read all the small letters. So these, this would be like the first strategic line, which is strengthening our membership, or the organizations that form our membership. Then education, la 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 la. So for example, this first line, they have an objective to facilitate the support and strengthening of the different entities. So they have somebody who's coordinating it, right? And so this, what we would call in Resilience Earth, we call this person the steward, right? So they are the person who's making sure that this objective is happening, right? And then they have people who are going to give direct support to the steward. So so for each of the actions, so these in our language for Resilience Earth, in this action, there's probably 1 or 2, or maybe just 1, maybe 10 projects, like small projects. Here for example, it could be that they're running a campaign to help people. Maybe they're doing a training, but maybe they're doing different trainings over the course of the year, right? So what we would do is for the whole strategic plan, we meet 4 times a year, and we ask to the steward, Carlos, how are you doing? Is this going okay? What are you learning from it? What can we harness from your learnings that will enrich the next trimester, right? And that goes on for the next 2 meetings. And then the last meeting is a whole review. What do we need to change, if anything, of this column? Ideally, here we're not changing anything in the strategic lines. We're not changing anything in the principles. We're not changing anything in the purpose. Well, in theory, but we do revisit them and see if they're still valid, if they still speak to us, if there's maybe a word that's missing in the definition. But these are a bit more flexible. That's why we call always our strategic plans living documents in constant movement, in constant change. And so if it were a project, to answer your second question now, Eulalia, so in the project, we have our first meeting, which is when we are going to do the look at the design that we've established, and we have our objectives, and we have to identify indicators. Now, does everybody know what, like, can everybody imagine what an indicator is? Sometimes it gets a bit complicated here. No, it's pretty clear. Yeah, we're good. Okay. All right, so the indicators we establish at the beginning, but they might shift, and we're open to that. But it's really important to identify both quantitative and qualitative indicators here. And we always, always, always include relationship building, indicators related to relationship building, network building. These are kind of the common ones, and learning, okay? So the first meeting is about that. In the middle of the project, we have a check-in meeting. How are we doing? Are we meeting those objectives? Are we reaching those indicators? How are we doing? Are we really, really not doing well on maybe one or two indicators? Was it realistic? If it is, then what should we do to adjust? What other things are actually happening that are super exciting that we didn't map out in the beginning? Add that as an indicator that you can continue to track. Right? And so then you're really enriching your strategic plan and your monitoring and evaluation plan. And then you can go, and then when the project has done its life cycle, that would be a small project. If it's a really big project, you might have a couple of those meetings in the middle. But at the end, then this is a really exciting point where, and during this whole process, also, if it's, for example, a community project, with Oscar was talking about the community, the Monitoring and Evaluation Commission. Do you remember when he mentioned that for the different projects that we do? No? Okay. Okay. So for example, if we're doing an intervention in a project and we're doing this co-sensing and strategic planning, we identify at the very beginning a group of citizens and ideally technicians and maybe one politician to accompany the process, kind of like a very friendly watchdog. Okay, so it would be a person who, or a group of people who are literally looking and stewarding, in English, in Catalan it's vetllar per, monitoring, evaluation, and learning throughout the whole project. And it's a beautiful space because it's kind of like a microcosm of what the whole community is experiencing. Because here in those groups, you can actually explore, like, what are the indicators? You can identify if it's a really big community project, what are the indicators that we should be tracking? You know, what would you like to see at the end of this project? And be really specific, you know, and you start mapping it out, and then you do these meetings with the Commission for Monitoring and Evaluation and Learning, the MEL Commission. It would be in English, and you're also creating a community or a group of individuals that we actually call them community catalysts, right? Because when we leave, they will now have they have basically done maybe a year-long training, not knowing it, in community development, in community catalyzation, in what leverage points are. And in those meetings that you have when you're tracking and designing and tracking and designing and tracking and designing the program or project, you're also training, you know, and co-learning with the community. So that those meetings, the first meeting, the middle meeting or meetings, and the end meetings, it is much more enriching if they can be done collectively as well. obviously you're going to have your internal technical meetings, like how are we doing? Do we need to adjust and shift and change things? But if the as many meetings that you can have also that engage that commission, those stewards of the community that are engaged and passionate about the project, the better. Like I'll give an example right now of there's one village where we're working, or municipality where we're working, that they had like this really big conflict many years, 3 years ago, seems like a long time ago now, around their central square, that the old government had built a building right in the middle of their Plaza Mayor, like the main town square. And so they developed this commission of monitoring and evaluation and learning to see what to do about that square. We did a whole diagnostic process and a planning process to figure out what to do, but they created so much bon rollo, like really good feeling in that group, even though there were people that actually hated each other at the very beginning, and we actually had to do like therapy sessions and conflict resolution sessions with them. But they became such a strong group that they have just started doing a lot of other things together. And we come in and like we'll support them occasionally when they need a little bit of external facilitation. But they are now doing on their own participatory processes for designing the one of the children's parks, designing and implementing changes to the rural schools playground. Also something about basketball and their sports pavilion. I mean, they took it and they adopted the methodology and the framework so much that it became theirs, and they've actually transformed it and made it so beautifully like rooted to them and their culture, that like I just got an email this morning and they're like, you guys created a monster in us. Like, they're like, thank you. We just like did they just did a voting, like a referendum on another building that they have to do, that they've made it participatory. They did like concurso, a competition with architects that was like, anyway, it was remarkable what they did. And they just, they sent us a quick message this morning saying, yeah, we had like over 50% of the community out on the streets and participating in this process and picking the final architectural design. And it was just like, I wrote them and I was like, you guys inspire me. Like, a small, like accompanying, loving, caring for a small group of people can transform the whole entire community, like, and that is monitoring and evaluation and learning at its finest. Like we don't, like, anyway, I'm I guess a Mel at heart, but it is so vital. And as an Indigenous person, in fact, like there's actually like, well, in Canada, there's some of us who are, with Indigenous heritage and backgrounds, and we're like, this is like Indigenous medicine wheel, because it is, the north of the medicine wheel, or the north of the Chicana, is all about reflection and learning, right? So essential. If we just keep going and not stopping and thinking about exactly what we're doing, why we're doing it, what we need to change, how we need to incorporate, embed that learning into the next steps that we take, then what are we doing, So, and if we're able to engage other people in that process, which I would even call Horizon 3 process, then that is enriching, that is transformative, and you can put in a fancy forms, which I was actually going to show you, but I don't know if it's worth it. Like, I don't know, it's just, it can be done in many ways. It can be done in a beautiful form that Alex can send you later, but it can also be done in a participatory session where people, using different methodologies with stickers or murals or ropes on the floor, say, you know, this is working, this is transformative, this sucks, we need to pick up our bootstraps and do something different here. And then you create like it can create really emergent space for co-creation, you know, and how, okay, if it's not working, who's responsible? And then the conversation begins from a different place, you know, because then you know, there's the reflection, okay, who is responsible, you know, and from a position of co-responsibility and pride, you know, of their community and love for the community, then working from a place of service, it can be even more transformative. Yeah. Sorry, I think I went a little bit more into detail than I'd intended, but I don't know. Does that make sense? Are you excited? No. So, or any questions also, you know, because it's I know it's not a common field and not a common practice, but really important.
I feel the excitement and I feel the meaning of it. My brain is trying to place it in reality. Okay, but how do we do that? In meetings where we say, okay, today, instead of talking of what we're actually working with, we're gonna not talk about what we're actually doing, but we're gonna reflect about what's working and not working. Is that the thing?
Yeah, exactly. So exactly. That's a really good question, actually, Eulalia. Thank you very much. It is. And it's actually, sometimes people get frustrated at the beginning, but you can say, you know, this is really important because we have to do it because of whatever reason, you know, and you just say, you know, the government, for us to be able to get this money, we have to present a report that says monitoring and evaluation, which is maybe sometimes true, but not sometimes. Always the case. But you give them a heads up. Today, we're not going to talk about the project activities that we're going to do next weekend or in a month's time. We're going to talk about how are we on the purpose of the process, you know, and some of the activities we do, for example, is we draw a huge iceberg on the floor. You know, Alex actually has been in one of those workshops, and we stand and we put the purpose that they wrote for the process on the floor, and we do a line, and one side will be 0 and the other side will be 10, and we'll say, how aligned are we now that a few months has passed or 6 months has passed with this purpose, you know, and have people position themselves, have people talk from where they are, you know, and make it as engaging as possible, you know, because and it's really quite affirming, you know, when you have lots of people at 9s and 10s, but it's also super exciting when you have somebody at a 6, you know, because then you're detecting a possible leverage point, right? Okay, so why are you at 6? You know, what makes you not be at 0, right? What is it that brings you here? Okay, that's an essence observation, you know, that is really powerful. Yeah. Sí, yes.
¿El evaluador ha de ser una persona interna del equipo o alguien externo mejor?
No, it can be someone internal. If it's external, that's a good question. If it's external, we get called a lot to evaluate big projects. Just a second, I'm going to ask him to talk maybe, or can you hear me okay, or is it really loud? It's okay. Sorry, he gets really passionate when he talks on the phone. For example, we'll do external evaluations with really big NGOs or mostly NGOs, the occasional government department. And that's really helpful because it's hard for them to, it's because there's a lot of technology, right? There's a lot of social architecture that we're designing to do it. But if it's your own project, why not have fun, you know? It could be really enriching. With bigger projects, it can be a bit tricky for them to be like, are we doing okay or no? You know, but when we go, for example, to like Solidarias, this national or regional, provincial network of NGOs, we never go and just interview people and write a report. It's always participatory. Like we get everybody together and we have them positioning themselves in the space. We have them voting. We have them using Post-its. Like we have them really living the experience of monitoring, evaluation, and learning, so that it increases their co-responsibility, not of just that activity of evaluation, but of the whole organization itself. You know, and that's what we really like of it, because it's kind of an excuse almost, or a way, a mechanism to increase everybody's awareness of their relationship and role in the organization.
I will share. I think I used to have a day scheduled in my agenda that I used to call it the knowledge spiral day, so that I could stop and reflect on how I was doing things, or the team were doing things. And I used to call it the knowledge spiral because for me it was the only way to assure that all the knowledge that we were getting was leading us to a spiral. So we were constructing on the knowledge that we were earning with all the processes.
That's beautiful. I would love, if you have it written down, I would love to see a bit of a session plan. That's beautiful. Yeah, nice. Yeah, exactly. It's almost like I'm thinking more like in the indigenous communities, for example, like depending on the community, often at each seasonal change, like the equinox or the solstice, there's the moment of reflection. And so like anything counts, everything counts. Like if it's on a spiral or if it's a conversation, but it's just like, you know, what is moving us? What is happening? What are we learning? And how can we bring that in to our ourselves and our next steps? Yeah, that's a beautiful example, Paula. Thank you. Okay. We'll have to start wrapping up soon. Reconciliation, yeah, for example, yeah, that would be another tool, yeah, that could be used. Exactly. So for, yeah, maybe because I'm just seeing the homework that we had set up. Maybe we can go without the homework and just go straight into next week. Next week, the topic, just to kind of start the clopening, is we'll bring in our reference person in social solidarity economy, so he can explain a little bit about the model of livelihoods from a project perspective, not from a like today was more an intro of, you know, how we do it as a cooperative, you know, as a livelihood, like all of you are living and working this from a, you know, as your daily bread, I understand, no? So he will start just like the first 45 minutes or yeah, more or less on social solidarity economy, and then we'll do the closing. So just keeping it open and doing some final evaluation. Actually, the monitoring and evaluation session will be there engaging with you guys specifically. So I don't know if you have any last minute questions in 5 minutes, I think. No, Alex, we have to transition. Yeah. Okay.
Erika, will you do in the next session a kind of a bridge between this training and the toolkits or the tools themselves? Because I have some questions. If you prefer, I can write them on Slack before the session, or we can discuss them in the next session. How do you prefer?
Sure. No, you can write the questions in Slack, but what it would be great if you say them now and I can start thinking about them. What, so it would be the actual cards and stuff themselves, you mean, or?
The cards are very clear. I've read them, well, not all of them, but some, just to have an idea. But I'm trying to get a complete a complete view of the everything that we've studied. I'm trying to make some schemes, and I'm more rational and visual person, so I need to do this. And I'm having some troubles here. Finding how do I connect the first part, the contextual part, the VUCA, the steps in the regenerative spiral. So we find the common purpose in the nested systems, okay? But then how do we step from the VUCA to the WeLand process? Something like this.
Okay. So maybe we can review that. That would be nice. Okay, that's a nice ending. Yeah, we can go through that next week, just as maybe as a closing and maybe opening for other things as well. Yeah. Okay, that's good. All right. So what I would say as a kind of a quick answer now, but I'll take it and we'll work it with Oscar, is that all of these frameworks are kind of tools that we use that are embedded in the meta system that is WeLand, right? So VUCA will pull in when we need it for a diagnosis, but we might also pull in VUCA if we need a story told about change, right? So it depends, you know, on the step that we're in, where we'll use some of these tools that we've been sharing.
And even because in the last session we've designed a session plan and everything, but the process is not only one session. So probably you'll have a lot of sessions with a common purpose. How do we design this? How we think? How can we manage this as a whole process? So the big picture, let's say. Just zoom out a little bit.
Nice. Okay, so that would be a strategic plan. The document we would define as a strategic plan. So we can maybe, if you want, I'll send these to Alex even by email. Maybe that'll be easier for you to resend to them. Yeah. So again, they're in Catalan. I'm going to see if I can find English versions, but maybe just like looking at the sections. But this is how we organize. Like because it's, well, we're also very, very visual. So that's in our Resilience Earth one. It's all graphics. We can send you a couple of versions. The earlier version, I think, is in English, which actually might be helpful to you guys as well. But in terms of mapping the WeLand process, it's actually in the strategic plan. And then mapping a WeLand process for a project would be a project proposal. Yeah. Does that make sense? Because in the project proposal, you're following that, like the intro would be a diagnosis and objectives. Then you go into the project design of the phases, the calendar, budget, and then outputs. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. But yeah, if you have questions like that, I mean, we're very, very eager to answer. I'm very sorry I haven't been able to be super active on Slack, but yeah, email is also really good for me. Any other questions before we wrap up then for next week? Yes, Yone.
Una preguntita. Después de este bombazo que nos habéis ofrecido, maravilloso, ¿cómo podemos darle continuidad a todo esto que hemos aprendido? Y sobre todo, intentar, si se puede, mantener relación entre los que hemos quedado, por lo menos las que hemos quedado. Sería bien bonito, y conocer los proyectos, ya sería una práctica, conocer los proyectos de cada cual y podernos apoyar en estos proyectos. Me parece interesante.
Pues me encanta la propuesta. So this, was saying, so how can we continue? How can we continue collaborating? There's a +1 by Maya after, these 12 intense weeks that, thank you so much, guys, for sticking it through and participating, and being here on the every Monday from 4 to 6. Amazing. Big love to all of you. Thank you. We can think about that. I feel like the Slack could be an option to keep it alive, and we can also talk with Nenad, who runs the PC Collab, to create instead of like having so many Slacks, we could actually create a community catalyst line channel in the PC Collab. So then you can go into all the other projects, but we could also have a PC, like a community catalyst one there for all the sharing that we can do. And the other thing is, in 1 month, the PC Collab, just a second. Oh, maybe you were, sorry. Collapse. That's sorry, that was at the very beginning of Lalia. Is a Slack channel well, people share different ideas, tools, questions, etc. And it's kind of like a community of practice. Yeah, it's really active and really lovely. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just getting a message. We should probably end now, but thank you so much. What I'm thinking, yeah, let us think about that. And if you have other questions, to have us start integrating. But there's the other thing. Erasmus Plus is doing another call for another K1 and K2. We can also see if we can get funding to do a study visit and do sharing and bring you guys here if travel is allowed next time. Yeah. If that would be cool. Okay, so let's look into that. That's pretty easy. They almost always say yes. So okay, super. All right. Okay. Well, we're gonna have to let you go because we have, I think, 80 people coming into this next session. So all right. Mwah, 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 mwah. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next Monday with Danny.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Salud. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.